Book 16 is honestly pretty insane in my opinion. It has some problems, but it also has some really good things in Book 16. Now, for starters, well, protags Umber Mulberry are just not that great. Let's start with Umber. Mulberry will come up a little bit later. Umber is honestly the worst Wings of Fire protagonist ever. He's just, boring. He's just so, boring. He falls into the happy protagonist like Kinkajou or Blue or Sunny. Everything before had, that was pretty common. But what makes him really bad is he's just so bland. He's just bland. Like Sunny had something special, Blue had something distinctive, but Umber pretty much has his whole arc. Blah, blah, blah. I am in love, which for me is pretty boring. Think about this. Sunny, she did stuff. Blue did a lot of stuff. Umber sort of just really doesn't do anything, but everybody else does it for him. I guess he has some few interesting things. His relationship with Sora was pretty interesting. What I mean is, how he cared for her and stuff. But still, he just doesn't have much other than that for me that I thought was really cool or intriguing about Umber in this book. Sora was great in this book. She just did great. I honestly really don't know why they didn't do Sora as a protag. Because, A, we got her recovery arc was awesome. Her being startled at the start makes sense. Her skeptical nature was cool and made sense given her past. It all just made sense. And towards the end, we finally see her recover and say, "We'll turn myself in." That was so satisfying. That was, really good and really cool in my opinion. That being said, there is one downside with Sora in the book. She didn't get enough time, and her recovery, speeded up by music, was a little silly, let's be real. Really silly. And I honestly don't know why she recovered faster with music, or why that was put in the book, or for what that was for. Now into Mulberry. Mulberry was horrible. Sure, she's kind of an interesting dragon to draw, but, his personality was kind of bland. He had a few interesting things, and he's quite a bit better than Umber, but he's not great. His romance with Umber was horribly done, 99% of WoF romance, half the time. I thought he was buddy with Umber, only Umber had a crush on him for it to come out in a very soapy scene, very cringe, and very overdone scene with all that. And it was really just sudden and surprising. His trauma was interesting, however, but Tui pretty much always does trauma well. It's Tui is the give characters trauma queen. And, of course, it worked out great, because that's what Tui does great. He's a nice guy, good for his character. My issue is, it pretty much stops there. There's not a lot about him. We don't see a whole lot about him. Platypus was a great character. This is how you make a comedy Wings of Fire character. Just handled great. I couldn't find an image of her, so I put a platypus, by the way. Funny, has a lot of interesting history. Her fighting, the reveal of all the true leaders, all of that was Platypus instead of Umber. She honestly did more in the book than the main character did. Revolution, Snake Root, and really reveal that they weren't rightful heirs, Beryl and Snake Root. just made so much sense. And, well, it was all Platypus. And Platypus is really funny. Got that hyper Kinkajou-like energy, which is more good for a protag than what Umber does have. Backstory of how the island was started, that was her once again. Honestly, she did more than Umber did as a main character. A lot more. And I don't really see why a side character should have more than a main. Kuko was alright. I mean, she was really decent, but a few things I like, a few things I dislike with her. She's really kind of a neutral character in my opinion. She sure was interesting, but that was just about it. She was a alright character. Her personality made actually a bit of sense. She was really interesting. She's not my favorite character. Even Platypus isn't my favorite character. But that's just all about her. That's all she has. Like, a lot of these characters are pretty bland. Like, Platypus was just recycled Tsunami Kinkajou mix. Now, on to Aurora. Okay, I have some pretty harsh opinions on Aurora. I do not like this character. Now, about her, she's cheesy, kind of really like one-dimensional things, and she seems like a 1960s cartoon character. That is not a compliment, but they did make good cartoons in the 1960s. But I'm meaning, like, it means like to feel, it almost feels like you're trying to market something, like a lot of 1960s cartoons that were worse. It just, for some reason, in my opinion, it feels like that. Beryl and Snakeroot, I enjoy them as villains. This is the real, like, good thing. Although other WAF books have really good villains, too. But Beryl was really interesting, I gotta say. They give me Stalin vibes. That's what I feel. Like, to me, there's secrets and stuff. They literally got pretty much a KGB going on. It just gives me Stalin vibes for some reason. I don't know why. And how they got into power was surprisingly a lot like Stalin. They cheated. Sure, these guys technically just broke the system, but what Stalin did, he was in charge of the guy of putting people in charge. He just kept on putting more people in charge, and they kind of did the same thing. They just got a few people to help them, got a few people in charge, and then used that to cheat their way through. That's what gives me Stalinist like vibes. These guys feel like Stalin, pretty much, almost. Now, issue I have is this feels toned down, simplified from other Wings of Fire books, which in my opinion is a bad thing. It feels like a little childish, because usually books, they get more mature. Think Harry Potter, but in this instance, it feels kind of the exact opposite. Like, compare this to book 1, gore-wise, and geopolitics. Doesn't touch it. It doesn't even come close. Same thing with book 2, book 3, book 4, etc. You get the point. With that being said, there are a few outstanding parts of this book, particularly the way the past was faked. I found really interesting as far as geopolitics is concerned. It was just really awesome. Just great way they portrayed history. But that being said, there were a few odd things. So, what do I think about book 16? Did have some good side characters that I love, because they're better than most WAF characters, because they at least get more emphasis. And they got some good past history reveals. But, with that being said, that's just about it. With that being said, I have some issues. Too big. One, pacing issue. It's slow. And, well, second off, some characters are just 1D. Sadly, didn't just get enough time. The pacing was really off. The characters, some of them didn't get enough time. With Sora, and, well, it just was awfully slow paced, which I just like in a WAF book. I like a consistent pace, and I don't like overly fast, but I don't like slow really either. Those are some big issues for me as far as this book. It's still a good book. I just don't feel it kind of stacks up to the rest of Wings of Fire. I found the whole blood pass thingy incredibly interesting. They could have done something different enchantment-wise, but I don't understand really why that was a thing. It just felt confusing and just kind of odd. They could have just had it where you put your, talon right there. Yeah, but it was interesting because it enabled all those past history scenes. The Sharp Wings also was a bit interesting. They were a bit intriguing as they're the first, I guess, enchanted tribe. And they just felt really intriguing. They were tiny little fairy mechanical dragons. And I felt they were kind of cool because they had their own culture and everything, but they had a command that they were set to do and follow out. So it's intriguing. How much of control does that have on the Sharp Wings, I do wonder. It's just intriguing. But in general, not a lot happens in this book. It's like Wings of Fire light, essentially. I felt a lot similar sort of feeling with a lot of Arc 3. I don't feel it catches what I wanted Arc 4 to be, which was a mystery but also a war-related thing, which I felt would have combined the two themes arcs, Wings of Fire Arc 1 and Arc 2 do really well. But it's its own thing. It's not what I predicted. Here's the weird things. Most writers, as the series goes on, get more dark as audience ages, it adjusts, but Wings of Fire happened in the opposite direction. I pointed this out earlier, but I just have to state this again because it is a real thing. It felt really toned down. This felt like something I would usually read in most children's books. And Wings of Fire was pretty dark for a kid's book, so it felt opposite direction. I just can't help. So, on to rating time. Well, I would personally say I would score this pretty lowly as far as Wings of Fire books, but it's still a good book. Tui just nailed it with this. It's definitely better than a lot of Arc 3 books. Plot, 7 out of 10. It's pretty good when good, bad when bad. There's not a lot I can say here. It's below average, I feel, for Arc 1 and 2 especially. But I do feel it's better than a lot of Arc 3. Other than the Hive Queen. The Hive Queen nailed Arc 3. That I just gotta bring that up. Main characters, 5 out of 10. Umber doing nothing. Very similar situation to Turtle. Very similar situation with Turtle. Just does nothing. Just very cheesy. Side characters, 8 out of 10. Great. Now, it's not necessarily the side characters are really good. It's just that they have a lot of them, and they have a lot of emphasis on them, which I feel does help them out. Because a fleshed out, bad side character is still better than a side character we hardly know anything about, support character-wise. It's a feeling that I have. I just prefer fleshed out side characters. It's just, I prefer it. Pacing, 1 out of 10. Why? Just why? The only pacing I think is worse. Well, actually, there's 2 or 3. But the Lost Continent and the Flames of Hope. Maybe the Dangerous Ships and the Poison Jungle too. But it's up there as far as pacing. Geopolitics, 8 out of 10. That's pretty good. It's not per se anything special, unlike say book 1 when it comes to geopolitics and all that. It's not book 2, it's not book 3. It doesn't nail that quite to the extent of the first arc, but it's competitive
with the second arc as far as geopolitics. Antagonists, 7 out of 10. Good, but they're just not my favorite. Darkstalker, the Breath of Evil was actually a really good antagonist, but I felt it got introduced too late. And Cottonmouth, very similar thing. So, what else? I just can't say a lot. You know, they give me these Stalin, like, vibes because they got into power in a very similar way. Got a bunch of people in power to help them out. Location, 7 out of 10. This new book wasted a lot trying to introduce a new place, but the new place was pretty cool and had some explanations. I felt the new place was worth it. It's not, like, as good as, like, keeping to the original continents. Pantala definitely could use some fleshing out. Same with Baharia. And I would love to see a lot of cultural relevance in locations. Something that doesn't happen a lot. We don't get to see a lot of culture or how the tribes differ, which I feel would be pretty cool as, like, a side plot or just something that existed. Overall rating, 7.3 out of 10. It's a decent book. Definitely better than book 15. But it does not stack up to Arc 1 or 2 books. It just doesn't. The only Arc 1 or 2 book it might stack up to is Talons of Power. It is. It does stack up to that, I think. Bye. That's all for now. Have a great day.